It's 3 a.m. On a storm-tossed night in 1998 when a reporter barrels into the dim Magnolia Hotel hallway, camera rolling, lights flickering, and spots an axe catching a glint in the gloom. The hallway stretches like a throat, its plaster peeled away, the air thick with mildew and a faint whiff of old pine. A lone bulb sputters, hurling jagged shadows across the faded carpet. At the far end, a shadowy figure swivels. The alleged murderer, known only from a police sketch, clutches the blood-stained axe like a relic, eyes cold, jaw set. The metal catches a flicker, flashing a brief burst that lights a scarred face. A distant echo, an axe swing bouncing off the hotel's stone arches, shakes the chandelier above, a hollow clang that feels ripped from another era. That sound rolls down the corridor, a low-frequency thrum that makes the reporter's skin crawl. "Who are you protecting?" the reporter shouts, voice cracking against the stone. "Why has this case sat cold for 20-plus years?" The camera zooms in, catching the tremor in the suspect's hand and the way the axe drips slow, dark rivulets onto the cracked floor. The suspect's lips part, a rasped whisper, "You don't understand this place, it never lets go." The words hang, swallowed by the hallway's oppressive silence. Every step the reporter takes meets the hotel-size old doors groaning, wind howling through broken shutters, the faint rustle of a long-dead guest's robes. The Magnolia's haunt talk isn't a myth. Locals swear they hear phantom footsteps at midnight, and the unsolved murder has turned into a legend whispered over cheap whiskey. The stakes are laid bare, a possible killer still walking free, a haunted hotel that feeds on fear, and a community that's waited decades for closure. The reporter's microphone crackles, catching the moment truth teeters on the edge of revelation. "We need answers," the reporter demands, eyes locked on the axe, the silhouette of a man who may have walked away that night. Who killed the guest in room 214? Why has the case gone cold? A cold wind rushes through the cracked window, rattling the blinds and sending a shiver down the spine of anyone watching. The hallway seems to close in, the walls whispering names of those lost, the unsolved case, a ghost that refuses burial. The camera catches a flicker of a broken portrait, an oil painting of the hotel's original owner, eyes tracking the scene, a silent witness to every tragedy within these walls. The reporter leans in, voice low, tension palpable. "Tell us why you're still here, why the axe, why the silence?" The suspect's stare never wavers, the axe still gleaming, a promise of violence or perhaps a relic of a past that refuses to fade. Behind the confrontation, a larger story bubbles. The FBI's Uniform Crime Reporting Program notes how rare axe murders are nationwide, underscoring the peculiarity of this case. Source: FBI UCR. The Magnolia's unsolved homicide sits among the nation's most baffling cold cases, where forensic advances have sometimes cracked decades-old mysteries. Source: NY Times. Yet here in this flickering hallway, the truth remains locked behind a rusted steel edge. The reporter's recorder clicks, capturing the echo of the axe swing, a sound that will replay in every courtroom, every news article, every whispered conversation in the town's diners. The stakes tighten, a community desperate for closure, a legend that fuels tourism, and a potential killer whose silence is louder than any scream. The hallway, the axe, the storm outside, all converge into a single, breath-holding moment. The camera's red light blinks, a reminder that every second captured is a second closer to unveiling the truth or sinking deeper into myth. "What happened that night?" the reporter asks, the question hanging like smoke in the stale air. The answer, if it ever comes, will echo far beyond these crumbling walls. Our investigation draws on official crime data and local archives to separate fact from folklore. Source: FBI UCR. Disclaimer: the following narrative is a dramatized account based on publicly available records and eyewitness testimony. No legal advice is intended. The grainy 1998 police footage jerks onto the screen, the flickering hallway light throwing jagged shadows across a splintered wood floor. A rust-pitted axe sticks out of a dried blood stain, the exact tool that sealed the Magnolia Hotel's creepiest tale. Source: FBI Ucker, rarity of axe murders. "Back in '98, we ran the usual DNA playbook," mumbles a forensic tech, rubbing his tired eyes. He flips open the same yellow folder from the original case, the one that held the swab from the axe handle. "Our old kit could only pick up one clean profile. The sample was trashed, the DNA barely there. We got zip and shut the book." His words hit just like that 2022 New York Times deep dive on cold case DNA retests, which points out how early kits missed crumbs of profiles that later machines could grab. Source: NYT 2022. Cut to a sleek modern lab, all stainless steel and humming machines. A tech slips the ancient swab into a fresh extraction tube, and the robot arm starts pulling every last molecule from the wood. The monitor pops up a partial DNA hit, just enough to drop a family lead the first test never spotted. "We're talking a 0.2% random match chance," the tech says, the numbers glowing against the dim lab lights. This is exactly the kind of comeback the National Institute of Justice bragged about in their cold case stats, new tricks waking up cases that have been dead for decades. Source: NIJ study. Meanwhile, the camera glides up the hotel's grand staircase, the carved railing groaning like it's carrying something heavy. Atlas Obscura calls the Magnolia Hotel a magnet for ghost stories, phantom footsteps in the ballroom, voices in the attic, even an axe like clang at midnight. That legend started with a 1978 killing still listed as unsolved by Clark County, a case now baked into the hotel's haunted myth. Source: Clark County Sheriff Report. We now line up the forensic timeline with the building's hidden guts. Old blueprints pulled from the county archives expose a web of service tunnels and a hidden pantry under the main hall, spaces staff forgot but perfect for stashing a weapon or hiding a body. Cross-check that partial DNA with the hotel's old payroll and one name pops up: the workers who had keys to those secret halls. The hallway lights flicker one more time. If the axe got shuffled through those hidden halls, the forensic guy muses, voice steady but with a hint of the hotel's ghostly vibe, the blood could have smeared on a wall panel that got torn out later. That fits right in with the NIJ's playbook on how trace evidence can hitchhike along unseen paths, something their latest stats hammer home. Source: NIJ study. A slow zoom lingers on the hotel's crumbling frontage, moonlight catching the iron brackets that once held the axe. The story isn't fantasy anymore. It's a real-life puzzle where blurry 1998 footage, cutting-edge DNA, and the hotel's forgotten floor plans all crash together. As the narrator leans in, the question hangs raw: what else is still buried inside the Magnolia's bones, just waiting for fresh eyes to find it? The segment ends with the lab printer spitting out a new report, thin but alive. A case that flatlined on a dead-end test is suddenly breathing again, its ghostly past sliding toward hard evidence. Source: FBI Ucker NYT 2022 Clark County Sheriff Report Atlas Obscura NIJ study. The lens creeps close to the reporter's mug, dark circles framing the eyes, a crumpled evidence bag clutched in a gloved hand. She's planted in the Magnolia Hotel's decaying hallway, the very passage that spooked locals for generations. Reporter: This right here flips the whole script. Behind me, a crew of forensic techs uncovered something raw and wild. This case just ripped out of the dark and blazed into daylight. Source: National Institute of Justice study on cold case clearance rates. Switch to a tight shot of a DNA swab being peeled from the axe's handle, and the reporter leans in, voice barely a whisper. Reporter: Fresh DNA, not the victims, not any of the original suspects either. Instead, it belongs to someone who was here on the job when the night unfolded. And get this, 10 years back, that DNA wasn't even on any database. New tech, fresh answers. Source: New York Times report on cold case DNA retesting. The camera pulls back, laying bare the axe, rusted, splattered with blood, sealed in plastic. It's the identical piece, the same model, the same heft. The same gore. Reporter: Now here's where things get really strange. Right behind that wall, that wall, there used to be a room, sealed shut, boarded over, hidden for ages. Even the hotel's own ledgers never noted its existence. But someone knew. Source: Clark County Sheriff's Office annual report noting the 1978 unsolved homicide. The reporter's voice flips, urgent, almost accusing, as she steps toward the alleged killer perched in a chair, cuffed, eyes locked. Reporter: Inside, a room with one bed, one towel, one axe, on the floor dried blood, the same hue as the victim's, the same spray pattern, the same tail. The reporter lifts the axe toward the camera, then swivels to face the suspect. Reporter: You were here, not merely in the hotel. Not merely on staff, you were in that room, and that DNA, it belongs to you. Source: FBI UCR program on rare homicide methods. The suspect's visage twists, first denial, then something darker, a flash of recognition. Their fists tighten. Reporter: You thought the past was buried, you thought the axe vanished, you thought we were finished. The suspect's eyes flick to the exit, then snap back to the evidence. The weight settles, sirens outside roar nearer. Reporter: Too late, the past just walked back in, and it carried the truth along. All right, the new forensic scoop might finally shut down the Magnolia Hotel mystery. New DNA retesting, just like the breakthrough the New York Times highlighted in its cold case roundup, has zeroed in on a long-lost sample that could finally line up with a suspect. Source: New York Times. If that match holds, the families who have carried this nightmare for decades could finally breathe a little easier, turning a lingering echo into a closed chapter. Source: National Institute of Justice. Think about it, an unsolved 1978 homicide that the Clark County Sheriff's Office still lists as open source. Clark County Sheriff's Office could finally be written off, letting those relatives move forward instead of staying stuck in the past. We want to hear from you. Got a tip, a family story, or even a nighttime encounter at the hotel's haunted hallway? Drop it in the comments. Your piece might be the missing link that cracks the case wide open. If you're digging this deep dive, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next chapter of our investigative series. Next up, we're heading to another historic haunt, an old train depot where a 1930s murder still haunts the tracks. Trust me, you'll want to see how new tech is breathing life into that cold file. And as we close, listen close. The distant swing of an axe still echoing through the Magnolia's corridors reminds us why truth matters and why we keep hunting it. Source: FBI Uniform Crime Reporting. Beat text